Okay, we are back, and it looks like everything is green. So I deeply apologize for that abrupt interruption, but unfortunately, I can't control Mother Nature, and it is storming where I am, and so I got disconnected from the internet for a flash. The thunderstorms, pretty bad right about now, but hopefully we will be okay and everything will run smoothly. So we're going to pick up where we left off, and so this is part 2, and maybe when we finish we'll be able to edit the video to kind of put both videos together to make it a continuous video so that we can avoid this interruption. But again, I apologize for that, and I appreciate everyone waiting, for those who are waiting and tune back in. And just in case you had other people, or you know of other people that were tuned in, share this link with them so that they can come on and participate or be involved. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off. All right, and so let's go back to where we left off. I believe that we were at we were still on line 1, but Sanjun was actually giving the word after the word was Seer or Osiris, and I believe we were looking up the word for Neb, and which is that first glyph. If I could turn my cursor, you see this first glyph here at the top, which is a basket. And what was the Gardner code for that again, June?
V30.
Okay, so V30, and so that's a word in this of itself, and that's what we were looking up. And so I'm going to switch over to the Vigus, which is where we were. And so that Emicat gave us the page number, and this is the entry that you see in the dictionary. Let me get my cursor over there. And so the very first entry of the basket here, V30, it says the transliteration is NB, Neb, and it means Lord, Master, Owner, or Possessor. Okay, and then we see a feminine form, Nebet, which is lady or mistress. It's the feminine form of the masculine. All right, now notice we also have Neb, which is a basket that means any, every, all, or all kinds of. This word Neb is completely different from the word Neb that means Lord or Master. But notice it's the exact same glyph, and it's the exact same transliteration. So this is an example of what we call a homograph, which are words that mean different things, but they're spelled the same way. And so we have Neb and Neb. This also happens to be pronounced the same way. So these will be also homographs, but they will be homophones, the way we pronounce it today. Neb and Neb. All right, so just keep that in mind, and that's the important thing to remember, because this is one of the advantage of having determinatives on words. And we have a video about determinatives and their importance and what they are useful for. So check out that video if you want more information on that. So we've covered Neb, and we know it means Lord or Master. So let's go back over here. So now we have some other glyphs to deal with. So does anybody want to continue?
Yep, the next sign is R11. Like I said, we call it Jed Pillar.
Okay.
Next, after that, it may be usually you see the hand after that. Is that the hand above the bird?
Yeah, it's hard to make out because this whole top portion of this stela is has a little chips and damage in it.
Yeah, I think that's the hand. Gardner code D46. Underneath that is the quail chick. Gardner code G43.
Okay. All right. So let us find that. So we have the Jed pillar, the hand,
R. Yep.
and then the quail chick. What is the transliteration for that?
Capital D, lowercase d, W.
Okay, so we're going to go over to the Vigus. I'm going to switch back over to the Vigus. And I'm going to search based on that transliteration formula here. So let's go to Vigus, and we're going to search for capital D, lowercase d, W. Medew.
Yeah. It should bring you to 1703.
All right. And this is where we are. So we have Medew on the screen. And so we see the Jed pillar, we see the hand, we see the quail chick, and we see another glyph that we don't see on the stela itself. And so this, again, this is where we have to be flexible and understand that some glyphs are omitted, or that what we're looking at has some damage to it where you can't, no longer see the glyph itself. And so this comes with time, as long as you're open-minded and you have your detective hat on to be able to sort these things out, you'll be okay. But as a beginner, it may seem a little strange, and it may, be a little intimidating, but don't allow it to intimidate you. So this is the word Medew, which is a place today famous, better known as Busiris. All right, which is the land of Osiris. It's the place of Osiris. The word Bu and then Osiris together gives us Busiris, and it's the place of Osiris. All right, but we know it as Medew. All right, so let me go back over to the stela. And so we want to continue. So let's go to the next one, or next grouping, glyphs that you see as a grouping.
All right. I think I need help with the next one. I see the water jugs. Can you make out what that is in front of it? Let's see.
Okay, actually, let me see if I can blow this up.
That's
so that we can see it better. I'm just gonna see if I can blow it up. Well, it's getting a bit blurry here. But this may be a defect, because we see different defects inside of the on this particular stela. Because otherwise, this would be the circle with the X in it, that's with the Medew. But this is kind of far away from where that would be in the word Medew. So again, when you're doing these transliterations and translations, you have to, when you're walking through an inscription, sometimes you may have to skip ones that are a little difficult and work around it and then come back to it, because a lot of times context will help you. All right, context clues, same way that you would do in English. If you were reading a book and you're reading a paragraph and you run into a word that you don't know what the meaning of, and you don't have a dictionary handy, I mean, it's kind of impossible today with dictionaries on your cell phones now, but back in the day, when you ran into a word that you didn't understand and didn't know, but you couldn't run and get a dictionary that quick or whatnot, you would simply skip that word and read the context that will kind of give you a hint of what that word means. And then you can come back to it and say, oh, okay, so this must mean that. So this is no different in this particular process, even on the level of identifying the word itself. So keep that in mind. All of this plays an important role in this process. So we can go to the jugs here. And let me see if I can shrink it back to make it clear. Okay, so we are at the jugs, and hopefully it's back on the screen.
How many jugs? 4? So we have 4 jugs as W18, but it also says use as W17, which is the 3 jugs. Transliterated XNT.
Yes. And so one thing that you'll learn prior to making these attempts is that when we're dealing with glyphs that represent 3 consonants, we refer to those as triliterals. Glyphs that represent 2 consonants are called biliterals. Glyphs that are represented by a single consonant are mono or uniliterals. And so when you're dealing with biliterals or triliterals, they're usually accompanied by monoliterals that are called phonetic complements, which represent some of the consonants in the triliteral or biliteral. So this particular glyph is a triliteral. You said X, N, T. And so we see these other glyphs here, which will be the N and the T that complement the triliteral itself. All right. So what is this word here?
Kent.
Okay, Kent.
Kenty.
All right. And let's go to the next group. So we have that written down. We will have that written down. K-N-T. Excuse me, X-N-T.
Mm-hmm.
And what is this word here?
I'm not sure. I can't make out that first one.
Okay, no problem. So the next word.
That would be immense or imminent.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right. Okay. So the glyph that is there, what will be that particular glyph? The glyph, just let me get my cursor back there. This particular glyph here would be R14. And then this bird here would be the glyph, the TU bird. Okay, and so this phrase here would be Kinti Amintiu. And so we're going to show that inside of the Vigus dictionary. All right, it would help if I switch it over to the Vigus dictionary so everyone can see it. So here we are with the Vigus dictionary. And we have on the screen on page 23, what is that, 2366, we have the word Kinti Amintiu. And notice how Sinjun said that on here we have 4 water jugs, which is W17. Excuse me, 3 jugs that we see on the screen, which would be W17. W18, which are 4 jugs, is a variation of W17. So you'll see these interchange when they say that. So this is where you have to be flexible and understand that some things may be variations for different things. So this is the phrase Kinti Amintiu, which means foremost of the Westerners. And it's an epithet of Osiris. So if I were to go to other variations of it, you see it again. This is another variation of the word Kinti. Kinti Amintiu. And here's yet another variation of it where Osiris or Wasir is included. So we have Wasir Kinti Amintiu, which is Osiris foremost of the Westerners. All right, so hopefully that is straightforward and understood. Okay, so now we've gone through just the first line, and this is taking time to do because we're explaining each of the steps that you would take. But again, once you get used to this process, this will become faster and faster to you. The more and more familiar you become with the glyphs, before be able to identify the glyphs and the words. All right, so you'll move from just being able to identify individual glyphs to identifying words, which are groups of glyphs. Then you may even move to recognizing phrases and even sentences upon sight, looking at them. And the only way you'll get to that point is by practicing and becoming more and more familiar with this. And in order to do that, you have to actually put in the work and transliterate and translate. Practice, practice, practice. All right? Because we can teach you and explain the steps similar to learning how to play a musical instrument, like a piano. Someone can teach you the scales, major scales, minor scales, the blues scale, where the keys are on the keyboard and everything, the circle of fifths, the chords, and things like that. But if you don't actually sit at a piano and practice with your left hand and your right hand and actually finger the notes and the chords, then you'll never get up to speed with your coordination of your fingers and be able to play music. You'll know about it, but you can't do it. So likewise with transliterations and translations, you may know, but until you put in the work to do it, you won't gain that extra knowledge that comes from experience. All right, so make sure you put in the practice. And so like I said, this has 15 lines, and if we were the pace that we're going, it would take us forever to walk through all 15 lines. But I wanted to go through the steps a little bit more in detail and kind of show the dictionary and show the sign list, etc., so that we can actually go through this, and so let's see what we can actually pull out. What else can we pull out from here based on those 4 steps? So we cover step 1, step 2, and step 3, and step 4. So someone explained step 4. What is step 4 about?
This is where we, after finding all the different words, parsing the words together, then we come up with a sensible translation.
Okay. And it's by sensible translation, what you're going to have to apply is the grammar. You're going to have to be familiar with the grammar, because during a translation, you're taking the meaning in a source language and bringing it over into a target language. And when you do that, you have to actually adjust to the environment of the target. So the grammar in Rani Kemet, which is ancient Egyptian, may be different than the grammar in English. So you have to make those necessary adjustments, which is what we mean when we say sensible translation. So it has to make sense in English. All right. So like, for example, in Spanish, there are general instances where the adjective comes after the noun. But in English, we put adjectives before the noun. So in Spanish, I would say Casablanca, which would be house white in English, but that would be incorrect. Literally, it would be house white. But in English, we would have to reverse it and say White House. Okay? And so we would have to make that adjustment on our final analysis or final translation. So this is the same with Rani Kemet. So we express that by saying step 4 is to come up with a sensible translation. All right. I do want to make a note that this first glyph in row 2 is a seated deity, and it is the last glyph in this word that ended in row 1. And that's something to point out, that when you see these rows or these dividers, whether they're in rows or columns, they're not used for any punctuation whatsoever. They're only used for aesthetic purposes, which means that it makes everything neat and in order. So just because the glyphs end in row 1 doesn't mean that that's an end of a sentence or even an end of a word, because this word itself bleeds over into the next row. So the first glyph of the second row is still part of this last word in the first row. Kenti, I meant to you. Okay, and then we would continue to read and so on. So let's just give a very smooth translation of that first line, and of course we're including that first glyph of the second row. But this first row, let's give a smooth, let's recite it smoothly in terms of its Egyptological pronunciation, but also give a translation. So does anybody want to volunteer to do that?
All right, I can do it. So the transliteration will be Hotep Tenesu, Wasir Nabjadu, Kenti Ementu.
All right.
And the translation will be an offering the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jadu, foremost of the Westerners.
All right, good. Okay, there you go. So, so at this moment, I'm going to pause and I'm going to check out the chat. And actually, in the chat, what I'll do is as well, because of the storm, the power flash, we had a power surge here where I am, and I see that some people wanted to join in our discussion. We have brother Sanjeti that wanted to join in. I'm just now seeing his message, so if he's still available, I'm going to send him a link. And I'm going to post the link inside of the chat to get in. All right. So you can ask your questions and what have you. All right. So let's make sure. Give me a moment. And if anybody has any comments or whatnot, feel free to comment while I sort this out real quick. Nope. Okay, so let me get the invite. Actually, is the URL. So here's the URL to come in, and I believe you're going to need the actual number, meeting number. And don't be shy. Don't be scared. We're not going to bite. For some reason, sometimes people may be intimidated because we're all learning. So if you make mistakes, we make mistakes. Everybody make mistakes. It's how you learn from those mistakes, which is what's beneficial. So the meeting and the ID was given. The link was given. All right. So if you feel if you want to join us in on the panel, you don't have to have your web camera on or anything like that. You definitely have to have your microphone on and be able to hear us. Okay, so hopefully you all will be able to get in. Okay, and we'll wait a little while, and if no one wants to jump in, that's okay. We understand. People be a little scared, but let's see if I can paste everything just in case that doesn't work out with what I pasted. Okay, so that should be all of the information that that you need to come on in. And I think it's a good point to answer any questions that people may have. If not, then we'll just continue. And like I said, if we were to break down every step and do it every step, this is 15 lines of this particular stela, and it would definitely be time consuming for our YouTube video. So we may have to do a little showing off and just fly and read. All right. When we're told to read around here, we read. So we're going to wait a little bit. I didn't see any questions inside of the chat itself. So
Yeah, they were good in the chat. Most people have most of the things down, so just really nice.
okay, excellent. Okay, so again, line 1 is Hotep di Nasut Wasir Neb Jedu Kinti Amintiyu. And then if we were to continue with line 2, does anybody want to continue? We're not going to go through all of the steps as far as pausing and looking at the sign list or the dictionary, because I think we've shown that process enough. But let's just go through it and actually go through it line by line. So we read number 1. Sanet Emiket gave us line number 1. So line number 2, if we pick up where we left off, which is just after that first glyph in line number 2, row 2. Hopefully it's big enough on the screen. It looks like it. All right.
Looks like Neb Abju.
To. Now, I do want to say this. Let's take a moment to talk about the offering formula itself. So whenever you're dealing with the offering formula, and the reason why they call it an offering formula is because these are formulaic expressions that are prolific in the culture. So we have a couple of them. We have the offering formula, and then we have the word spoken by formula. And there's a couple of other formulas. There's a formula that comes after the king's name. Like, for example, when people say Ankh Uja Seneb, that would become formulaic because it'll be, you'll see it a lot. Let's see, Ankh Jed Was, Ankh Uja Seneb, Ankh Jed Mira. Certain phrases become formulaic because they are very prolific, that you'll see all the time, and you'll see it together like that all the time. So Hotep di Nasu is the opening expression of this offering formula, and an offering formula has 4 major components to it. Okay, and those 4 parts are the opening formula, which invokes the actual formula itself, which is an offering in which the king gives, which is Hotep di Nasu. And then after that, the second element would be the names and epithets of one or more deities that are associated with this offering. All right. A third element would be the actual commodities or the actual offerings themselves, the elements of the offering itself. So the items, what's being offered. And then fourth would be the name or names of the person, the individual that's associated with the offering. And so those are the 4 elements. So a lot of the offerings may differ in their details, but all of them have those 4 elements to it. So the offering formula that we usually start our show with, that we didn't start today with today because we're actually doing an offering formula, but the one that we normally use and recommend for people to memorize is a very brief one, but it has all the 4 elements in it. So this one is no different, but this is a very long one. Okay, but you will recognize those elements. So the opening phrase is Hotep di Nasu, and then the deity or deities, plural, that's involved with it will come next. So that's, and their epithets. So we have Wasir, and then his epithet. So we have Wasir Neb Jedu, another epithet, Kinti Amintiyu, another epithet, Neb Abju, which is Lord of Abydos. That's in line 2, the beginning of line 2. So what do we have next? We have oh, go ahead.
I think we have is it Web Wabet?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Wep Wawet or Wep Wawet, which is another deity. And usually, as I said, we have a deity and epithets of that deity. So, do you have anything after that?
I think we have Nebtajesser. Yeah, so it's I think after Web Poet we have Nebtajesser,
Okay.
and then we have Impu.
Oh, wait, that's another deity. So we said that Wasir is Lord of Jeddu. He is the foremost of the Westerners, and he's also Lord of Abydos. So now we introduce another deity, which is Wetwawet. And so what does his epithet mean? You said Neb Tajesser.
Yeah, Tajesser, Neb, a lot of the sacred land.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and then there was Inpu,
Okay.
and then on the last part that would be Tep Jew. So which comes with Inpu, which is that he who is upon his mountain or something like that.
All right. So we have Inpu, and then say it one more time.
So you have Inpu, as in Inpu Tep Jew, which will be Inpu, he who is on upon his mountain. I think it will be Jew F. Usually it's at the bottom. Might be damaged actually.
All right. So we have.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to go back. We have Wapwawet, Neb Tajesser. And what does that mean, Tajesser?
That would be the sacred land.
Okay. You probably said that. I didn't hear that. And then we have introduced Enpu. And so this is Enpu here. And we have the reed leaf, the water ripple, the stool, matted stool, and the quail chick that spells Enpu, the name Enpu. And then we have a determinative of Enpu, who is actually on his mound or perched on a chest sometimes, or a hill or mound. And so we have Tep, as you said, Tep, Jew, and an F. The horn viper is here. Little damage there, but you see the horn viper beneath the glyph that represents Jew. Okay, which means hill or mound. Okay, so that's the conclude of line 2. And let's go to line 3. What do we have at the beginning of line 3? Okay, so I'll do line 3. Line 3, we have the first glyph is Emi. And then we have wet. Emi wet. Then we have Neb Tajesser again. Notice that Tajesser is the same as what we have in line 2, row 2. Tajesser. Tajesser. So Enpu as well as Wapwawet are lords of the sacred place or the sacred land, Tajesser. But Enpu is also he who is upon his hill, as well as within the place of embalming. So he dwells within the place of an embalming, which is the funerary chamber. Okay, so that's the beginning of line 3. And then we move from that to this is the beginning of the actual. It would be what looks like the beginning of the invocation. And it starts off with what? Does anybody have what this starts off with? And mind you, there's damage in row 3. So we would have to work with the best, do the best we can.
Let me get the easy ones out the way.
All right.
Correct, Karu. T. Henket.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all right. So we have Paret Keru T Henket, which is the invocation. So what does that mean, though?
Voice offering of beer and bread. Bread and beer.
Okay. All right. All right. Excellent.
And usually after that, we see uh, ophead, which is bird.
Uh-huh.
What else? Ka, which is the ox.
Okay. Now, mind you, some of this is damaged, and so
Yeah.
what we could see here is the bottom part of an owl, and usually now when it's damaged, as I said earlier, when you have a lot of damage to an inscription, this is where your skills and your familiarity with the various different inscriptions in other places. So the more time and practice you put into this, the more you'll be able to recognize some of these phrases, words, and whole sentences and things, especially if you use the offering formula. This is why we recommend that when you practice things like this, that you choose a genre of literature. So what I would recommend is that people take as many offering formulas that you can and work from them and stick with those for a while. So if you translate this one, then grab another one and another one, and don't move to a different type of literature until you get very comfortable with the offering formula. Then you move over to something else. So by that way you'll be able to organize your studies and become familiar with the way something is written before you move on to the way something else and have a different variety of words and vocabulary in there. Because the offering formula is gonna be they're different in size in terms of how long they are, depending on the person and so on. But there's going to be a good limited amount of vocabulary within them. And so once you start getting used to it, then you'll be able to identify them even when there's damage. So, for example, this, by me seeing an owl here, I know that the glyph before the owl must have been the glyph of the lotus or lily plant, the tall lily plant that represents the word ka. Because ka-im is together as a combination to talk about the amount, to say a lot of. It's like saying a lot of. And so it's saying ka-im, a lot of, and then what? Apedu, which are the fowl. And then it's going to name some other things. Okay, so just my familiarity with the owl being in the offering formula will let me know what I just said. But had I not already known that through time and practice, then I would be stumped right here. I would have no idea what this is, because it's damaged. I could make out the bottom part of an owl a little bit, but still I would say, oh wow, what is this? So so those are the benefits of putting into practice and knowing. Okay, so we can kind of so apedu, and then to move forward a bit, does anybody want to carry on? Well, let's look up this word here, gehes. And actually, let me shift over to the Vigus dictionary.
What glyphs would that be for the word gehes?
Okay, let me find it in a dictionary, and we will look it up. Turn my cursor on the dictionary, and can you see the screen?
Two.
Okay, so let me go back to the formula here. Or the actual stela here. All right, so as you can see, that here are the possibilities. Oh, I lost dictionary. All right, here are the possibilities. So gehes would be a word for gazelle, which would be animal. We also have gehes, which would be a gazelle animal, but this is just the head of it. We have gehes in this format, which is gazelle, 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 but this is the way it's spelled here. And we have gahes, this way. All right, so let me go back to the Stella. And see, I can't make it bigger without it becoming blurry. And so hopefully that this is good enough to be seen. So I want to make sure this is big enough to see. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Let's see. Okay, well, I can't make it bigger, but this glyph here that you see right here, which is after Apedu, which is after the this glyph, is that head for gazelle. You see the antlers here up top?
See.
Okay, so that's what it would be. So like I said, I'm not sure if it's clear coming through to YouTube side and everything. I'm able to see it a bit better probably on my end, but hopefully people will be able to pick that up. So this one is having gazelles. Now we don't see gazelles used that much in the offering formula, but this person is getting a lot of different items. Okay, so we have a gazelle. So does anybody see any other words? Anything else?
Yeah, the next glyphs are, I'm not sure, it looks like an eye with a single stroke, but it just seemed wrong to actually appear in a list of offerings.
Okay.
So, not sure.
Say that, which one again? Say it again.
Right after the folded cloth,
Mm-hmm.
it looked like it's an eye with the top glyph is an eye, and then you have the single stroke at the bottom.
Oh, right. I see that. Okay.
Yeah, but just doesn't seem like it would be inappropriate right there. So,
all right. So now, like, unlike Freestyle Friday, we can actually look it up. So do you all have your Vigus cracked open? Then we can actually look it up and see if that's what we find. Anybody any luck?
No, if that's the case, it might be the S in front of it might go with it. The causative to cause the make. No, it's S29, D4. If that's the I, D4, and then Z1 is a single stroke.
Okay. All right, so I will give the hint here, and I will show it on the screen. Well, I won't give a hint. I'll show it on the screen. That way we can all see it. And I'll let me know when you can see it on the screen. I'm showing it in the Vigus. This is on Vigus page number 125, where we see the word Ra, which is an open mouth, not the eye, but the open mouth with the stroke, and then the duck after it, the pintail duck.
Okay. So those are the 4 glyphs we see over there. So makes sense.
And it's the word for goose.
Mm.
All right. So they say Ra, R capital A. And it's the gray leg goose, as you see here. See? So if I go back, let me show the stela again. If I go back to the stela and I will point it out. So we have the open mouth. Let me point that out here. So right here we have the open mouth, the single stroke, the duck, and the single stroke. So that's the word Ra for gray leg goose. So we have gazelles. We have geese or goose. And so now let's pick out the rest. So now we know ghost ends here. So now let's deal with this. Minette. So what do you think Minette is? Well, let's look it up. Minette. Anybody have their Vigus open? Minette. M-N-T.
That would be pigeon. I think. Yeah, that would be a pigeon. And we have it on page. There's one on page 2457. We also have a swallow as well. Interesting. So we have a swallow. The pigeon had a question mark, but we also have it as a swallow. I think that's a definite one.
All right. Okay, so we have the swallow. So we have all kinds of animals here. We have gazelles, we have geese, we have swallows. And so let's keep it going. What else do we have? Let's finish out the line. We're still on row 3. This should be pretty familiar with everyone.
Yeah, that will be hit.
Okay, kit.
Hit. And then nibbit next. And I can't see properly on that screen, but usually, hold on one second. Let me take out this. So it'll be cat, nibbit, and that probably will be neferet. And then we'll move to the next row, which we have wabet.
Okay, so we have ket, nebet, neferet, wabet. All together. And so what does that mean, that string of words? Ket, nebet, neferet, wabet.
That will be all things good and pure.
All right. So I hope everyone has that. Ket, nebet, neferet, wabet. Okay, so it's everything good and pure. And let's continue on line 4. So we have the in. We have the water ripple. Then we have imaki, which is venerated. The word for venerated, imaki. And what else do we have? Anybody see anything else?
Yeah, then that. No. We'll probably have to zoom in a little bit.
All right, let's see if I can zoom in. Hope it's not blurry. Maybe a little. Okay, so let's I would just continue, and then somebody could pick up where they feel that they recognize. So we have to go back, we have wabet. It ends with wabet. Then we have in imaki, which is the venerated one. Then we have care, which is before. We have Netcher A, Neb Pet, the PT, and then the Volt glyph, or the Vault of the Sky, or the Sky glyph. So we have the venerated one before the great God, Lord of the Sky. And then we pick up here. So what do we have here? So now, one thing I mentioned earlier is that when you get stumped, like I said in English, if we run across a word that we may not know, we skip, and then we figure out something else around it and go back to it based on the context. So something else that you may recognize in this line may help you to come back and recognize something that you had to skip for the time being. So if you look past where we are, and this is kind of blurry, so I'm gonna kind of come back. So does anybody recognize anything else inside of this row number 4?
I think I'm recognizing Munchu.
Yes, we have Menchu, which is the game board.
Yep.
Water Ripple, Tethering Rope, Quail Chick. And then we have what after that?
Hotep.
Yeah, Hotep.
Yes, so we have Menchu Hotep. All right. And anything else?
Any Tef?
Yes, but before that we have this. We have a duck.
Sa, son of.
Yes.
Or Sa.
Yes. Son of, and then who?
Any and Tef.
Okay, there you are. Exactly.
So what was that we skipped over? I know it's the owl, and it looks like the mouth. Is that Emir?
Yes, it is. Emira.
Mm-hmm. Emira.
Mm-hmm. So now this glyph here, it's I can't blow it up. It's gonna be blurry, but this is the glyph for chess. So Emira chess, and then we have the plural. So Emira we know as the overseer. So the overseer of some department or some agency that was used in the administration. So the overseer. And then Menchu Hotep, and then Sa Ini Itf. Ini Itf would be the name. And we see the seated person here to denote a name of a person. Ini Itf. Ini Itf. Okay. And let's see what is at the beginning of row 5, and we have another line or row that we could deal with. Now this is a word that we use all the time. These first 3 glyphs. Does anybody know what that is? Repeat that again.
Iker.
Yep, Iker. Exactly. Who was that? That sounded like.
Ini.
No, I'm saying who was that said that?
Sen Ini. Ini have it, I think.
Right? Oh, okay. No, I think somebody, because we have somebody on the phone, and we have Sonat Lisa in here as well.
It was me, Sable.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get some other people to participate. So welcome to those who popped in. And if you pop in, like I said, hopefully we don't bite, and hopefully we're not intimidating. But if you come in, we do want to let your voice be heard. If you have any comments, questions, or anything to share. So for those who just came in, I'm gonna give you the mic, and if you have any comments or anything you want to say first before we continue on for a little while.
What's up with y'all? It's Brother Chris.
All right, Hotep. Any comments? Any questions, comments, anything?
Then
Okay. I tell you what. Now that Chris is here, we could just kind of relax everybody else, and Chris could knock out, you know, lines 7 through 15. So we going we
Right.
we're gonna turn it over to the brother Chris and go ahead and rock out. No, but yeah, welcome. Appreciate you coming in. Son Lisa, you have anything? And let me open my chat because your microphone maybe I don't know if your microphone's working, but if you do, you have anything? And if you're saying something, I can't hear you. Okay, so if your mic's not working. Okay. All right, no problem. Now that would be a slick excuse, you know, because you know we'll call on you. No, I'm just playing. So all right, so let's just go ahead and continue a little bit more. Like I said, it's 15 lines. We won't have time to do all the lines, but let's try to go through it as swiftly as possible. We're not going to show any details of anything, but unlike Freestyle Friday, when we get stumped, we're going to look up the words. So let's see if we could fly through this. All right, let's see how swiftly we could fly through this. And so where did we leave off at? Let me get back to the picture. So we had wabet, ni or in, or ni imaki, ker, netcher a, nepet. Then we have imi ra, ches. Then we have menchu hotep, sa, ini it, f. Ini it, f. We left off at row 5. Now, mind you, what that means is that where we left off in row 3, it is everything good and pure for the venerated one who is before the great God, Lord of the sky, the overseer of chess, whatever administrative body that is, and then Menchu Hotep, son of, and then any it f, which is a name, person's name. All right, and that pretty much completes a thought. And so we pick up on row 5 and we have Iker, which means excellent. And so now we can continue. So we have Iker and then what? And this is pretty common.
It looks like the front of a lion on the bottom for hats, and then on the top that it looks like to me the horizon, the sun in the horizon. But I don't have my glasses on.
I think the top probably was the papyrus that was for the word Iker.
Oh, okay.
Could be.
And that is absolutely correct. And so we have here the next 2 glyphs spells out a word that you may be familiar with. We should be familiar with.
Some other Netcher.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't. You know what? What do you think it is?
It looks like Netcher.
Okay, we can hear you just now. We heard your mic is working.
Okay, I think I fixed it.
Okay, so we have Iker, and then we have. Now remember, one of the key things to the offering formula is to remember the elements of the offering formula. So remember, I named 4 elements. We have the opening phrase, then we have the names and epithets of a deity or deities, and then we have the items that are a part of the offering. Some people refer to them as commodities, products, or whatever the case is. And then you have the names and titles of the person to whom the offering is related to. And so sometimes the person will have laudable titles and everything. And it usually closes off with something that we always say, which is maheru. So if we're naming names, now you know one of the things is one to look for that maheru in somewhere. We may not have hit it yet, but this is something you keep in mind. So we have Iker, and we also have maheru. So Iker here would be the excellent one. So we have Minchu Hotep Sa Ini It F, and then Iker, which is the excellent one, maheru, who's also vindicated or triumphant. And then we have some damage, so you know it's going to be a hard one to go through this row 5. But let's see if we can do this. Let's pick up what we can see and what we do know. So anyone, you know, it's open floor. So if you recognize any word in row 5, just go ahead and call it out. Any words?
Yeah, that's tough.
Okay.
I see Neb with the basket and the seated man.
Oh, over here? Where my cursor is?
Right.
Okay. All right. That's good enough. Anything else? So we got Neb. Got Neb over there.
Yeah, and some kind of name or person, but it's the water ripple, and is that, I'm not sure if that is the diagonal cross, you know, at the bottom.
Okay, so let me do this. Let me pull up in a dictionary so that we can share. Let me pull up a word in dictionary so we can see what this word is so everyone can see it and be on the same page.
Oh yeah, and while you're doing that, I also noticed that we actually have is that we also have another Sesh glyph right there, and that would be right before the Neb with the man. We have an owl in Sesh It's very little, so a small sign. So that's another one on that same stele.
Okay. Which glyph is that again?
You have the Sesh Netcher. We have a glyph for owl or M.
Okay, where direct me on my
Right before the Neb, the basket and the man.
here.
Right.
Okay. So let us see. Let's find out. Let's see what we have. Okay. So let me see if I can pull up a couple of these words. Now, what I recognize here is we have the new bowl here in the basket with the handle. And the new bowl in the basket with the handle is the personal pronoun I, Inek. Inek Imira, which is the owl in the mouth right behind the owl, Imira. Inek Imira, which is I am the overseer. Like we have Imira here, we have the owl in the mouth here. We have the owl in the mouth here. And notice that we have the same glyph. They have these cross planks here, the seated man, or what have you. So it's Emira, overseer of some department, agency. So that would be something that we would understand. You have to look that up. And we have the same thing over here. Similar. So does somebody want to look up those string of glyphs and see what you find? We also see it here. We see it a lot. We have it here, one here. We have it here. We have it here. And we have it up here. All right, so let's see what we come up with. Can anybody look that up? And again, I put the link inside of the chat, so anybody who's in the chat want to come in, you're more than welcome. You're invited to come in, join the party, and we won't bite. And let your voice be heard if you have any questions, comments, or if you want to help out and participate. Because we're going to stay on another 10 minutes. Did anybody come up with anything? Find anything?
Lisa said truer voice.
Overseer. Oh, true voice. Where?
I think she jumped ahead after Emira.
Okay. All right, that word is going to be tricky. So, you know, this is going to put your thinking cap to work on this one. Just want to give a little bit more time on it. Okay, so let's skip that because I want somebody else to find it.
Okay, well, what were the glyphs again?
Okay, we know Emira. We have the owl and an open mouth. So, and we already recognize Menchu Hotep. So these glyphs here is what you're gonna look for because we see them here, we see them down here, we see them right here. All right, so we see them in a few places.
I wouldn't even know where to start looking for the attacks, to be honest.
The Garnico Z9.
Okay, so anybody? I kind of gave it away when I said it in row 4. Look in the Garter. Look up the word chesset or chess, capital T, S, and then T. I didn't realize I had already said it in row 4. Emira chess. At the end here, we have the word ha, which is H, capital A, ha, which means to descend or go down, descend. And in row 6, which is a continuation of row 5, we have ha. Then we have the basket with the, first of all, we have the legs in motion as the determinative for the word ha. So we have ha, to descend, and then the basket with the handle, and the quail chick, which is the word for qui. Ha qui.
So that cross is it the garo knot? Is it chested for troop?
There you go. Troops.
Oh man, but that glyph doesn't look like that though.
That's what I said. It's tricky. It's a variation of it. And again, this is why everyone is encouraged to get as many dictionaries as you can, because there's strengths and weaknesses with different dictionaries. The dictionary has the most words in it is the German Wörterbuch Egyptis Sprocket. I think that's the full title of it, but it's the Wörterbuch. We just call it the Wörterbuch, Egyptian Wörterbuch dictionary, and that one has a lot of words in it. The resources, the primary sources where you can find it, and the whole thing. The downside of it is it's in German, so you have to understand German to see the meanings. But the sources, you can read those. You can find out where they are, and it's handwritten. So imagine these people that put together these dictionaries and hand wrote them. That's a lot of work. Talking about thousands of entries, thousands of words, and their meanings, and the sources, and the variations, all kinds of things. And they hand wrote it in a dictionary. You know, and imagine doing a dictionary. Think about it like this. Imagine doing you know how many times they would have to do that? Because look at this. If you're doing a dictionary, it's going to be in some kind of alphabetic order. It's going to be some kind of order, and you're going to have one word after the other in their proper order. So let's say you hand wrote a whole page, and you missed the word. That means you have to stick it in between the word. That means you have to write the whole page over again to fit the word in between somewhere. So can you imagine how many times it took, or rough drafts that had to be made before you're doing your final copy over, if you're handwriting all of this stuff? So
that's what I think they did with this Staley, because you see those smaller glyphs, especially the ones in Sesh, just squeezed in between there. I'm like wondering if they probably forgot some details and then just put them in there.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of room, but you see that the glyphs did get small. They got pretty small there. That's true.
So that was for those following along. That was Gardner code S24 for that sign we were looking at. Looked like the cross.
Okay. All right, so remember, I left off at Ha Kui for that last part of row 5 and in the beginning of row 6. Then we have the owl. And this is hard to make out here. What these glyphs are, because it looks like it could be a glyph, and then we have some defects inside of the on the stela itself. But we have a quail chick, a seated man, and then we have some strokes. We have what looks like 5 strokes. So this would be a number. So this is trying to identify a number of this, whatever this is here. And like I said, we would have to have in order for me to blow this up, maybe we can stop here, right? And I will try to find a better, higher resolution picture that I could blow this up. Because as you can see, these 5 strokes, these 3 strokes and then 2, and that's how the number 5 is written. 3 strokes on top, 2 on the bottom. So this would be the word diu, or number 5. And then right after that, we have another inek. We have a new bowl and then a basket with a handle. It's the same thing that we see here, inek. And then we have emi ra again. And then we have the same thing. So we have a repeat. Inek Emira, and then this, which is overseer of this department, And then it goes on. And it keeps going. So we can start to see a pattern and a repetitive pattern of what's being said. All right. So I will shrink this back out. So I think it's a good place because, like I said, I don't wanted to stay on for 10 more minutes, and we're bringing us up to the top of the hour at midnight. So I want to end here. But before we end, does anybody who came in have any questions or comments before we wrap it up? And we're going to continue this. We may be able to just continue this on our Freestyle Friday, just to kind of keep it fresh and keep it moving, keep it going. In the meantime, I will see if I can find a higher resolution picture where I can blow it up and it will still be clear. So does anybody on the panel have anything?
Sonnet Jolanda had a question on the chat. What she was saying was, is the seated glyph considered a determinative for name? Is that how it can be recognized?
Okay, repeat that question one more time. I'm sorry.
Is the seated glyph considered a determinative for name? Is that how it can be recognized?
Okay, well, the seated man is usually a determinative. Yes, it's either a determinative, or it may be used as a pronoun. But this particular seated man or seated deity would be most likely used as a determinative. Now, it's not the determinative for a name specifically. It's a determinative. And so for that particular word, it was the determinative for a name. So I don't want you to walk away thinking that this is a determinative only for names, but it's a determinative, and for this particular, let me actually point my cursor to it. This particular seated man or seated person here is a determinative, and it's to identify that this word. Remember what determinatives are. Determinatives help us to determine the meaning of the word and how to interpret or extract meaning from the glyphs that come before it. So this set of glyphs here is any, it, f, and then we have a seated man. So it's basically pointing to that fact that this is a person, not necessarily named specifically, but a person. All right. So, just keep that in mind. And if it was a woman, it would be a seated woman here. All right. So, just keep that in mind. And this stela here is old. All of these artifacts are very old. And it's really, really, we're just fortunate big time on how these age-old artifacts survived in such good condition. Even with the damage, it's still good for its age. And so some of this stuff we will see damage on it, and we have to make do with it. So we're going to stop at line 5, 6, and then we'll pick up on Freestyle Friday. We have a whole 10 lines to go. All right. So, but next time we won't pause and show. We're going to fly through this swiftly, and we're going to go through this. All right. So if you see this, you can pause the video, just take a look at it, recognize some words that you recognize, pick up. You can kind of scan through, through the stela and see the words that you know. Look up words that you don't know, and because we're gonna basically just go ahead and literate and translate this a lot faster for Friday. All right. So that will be it. Was there anything else? No.
Someone was asking if that's a pi 9-5. What 9-5?
What symbol again?
Pi.
Pi.
Oh, P. Sorry, P. Pi. Maybe it's P, not pi.
Line 5. I don't. Let's see if I can blow it up. I don't see a pi
It's
pi
in the
symbol.
middle.
What is a pi symbol?
It looks like Roman numeral 2. It's about in the middle. That's what he's referring to.
Oh, here?
Yes, yes. Right before it. Right
Oh,
before it. Just to the right of where.
over here, just to the right of this one?
Yes, I think so.
That's a seated deity, but it's more of the simplified Sesh, but it looks like a seated deity.
Okay. So we're gonna pick this up because we're gonna get this sorted out, and we're gonna see what we're actually dealing with. But no, pi. If you're talking about pi as far as the symbol for pi, like 3.14 pi, that kind of pi. No, we're not dealing with that. Okay. So anything else?
None.
Okay, so I'm gonna look for a higher resolution picture so we can probably get, because it's already challenging to have a damaged artifact to work with, but then when you don't have high resolution, and I always recommend when you see high resolution of different Egyptian artifacts and things, make sure you save them. Save them for later practice and things like that. The higher resolution, the better. I have a collection of pictures, and every time I come across a very high resolution picture, I make sure I save it, swap it out for maybe a picture that's not so good of the same things. So I always try to improve on the pictures I find and save. I've collected a lot of pictures over the years, and I'm constantly looking for higher resolutions and things. When you contact a museum and get facsimiles of different things, they send you very good quality pictures. Or if you visit museums, obviously you could take your own pictures and things. Or visit Kemet itself, take very good quality pictures. Don't try to save space on your little mini storage device or anything like that. Make sure you take those high quality pictures. Those big things, that 3000 by 3600 DPI. I mean 300 DPI, but pixels, 3000 by 3000 and above. And stuff like that. Make sure you get the good quality stuff. All right, because you can always shrink it down, but once you have a low quality, if you ever try to enlarge and blow it up, then it gets blurry. So remember, you can always go down, but you can't go up when it comes to pictures. All right. So with that, if there's nothing else, was anything else in the chat? No. Yeah, Cranston said the Greek pi. So no, that's not dealing with it. He said, well, Joe, you should write us a dictionary. Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. I would love to, actually. If somebody could fund it, I would do it. Because I have to live. So, I mean, that could be my full-time job. But somebody would have to compensate. That would be no problem. I would love to do that. I would love to do that because I would love to do that. I would expand, and I would incorporate historical comparative linguistics so that we would fact check all of this stuff. But that would be a huge project. But that would need funding for anybody. One person wouldn't even be able to do it. But whoever, the team that does that needs funding. We need to create a financial fund or chest, money chest, to really put in this work and research. You know, but we have to get people on the same page. We have to get people off of the bad food and get them to start eating healthy. Meaning that we gotta stop people from accepting the pseudo information or misinformation that's brought about through pseudoscientific methods, and really get them to know the difference and see the quality, more accurate information, so that we all can be on the same page. Then people may be a little more forthcoming with wanting to help out and fund things and provide resources, whether it's money or whether going out getting resources themselves and donating, whatever the case is. But this is not a one-man show. It's not a small group show either. It's going to take a lot of us to do this. So one of the things about the beginner's course is that we're trying to raise warriors that are competent and proficient in the language. And that's what scribes were. Back in ancient times, the scribes were the go-to guys. They're the ones that kept the administrative fabric together. They were the glue of the administration. They documented everything, copied everything, recorded, to recall things, stored things, all those kinds of things were on the shoulders of the scribes. So if we're going to do anything today in regards to Kemet, it's going to take that scribal mentality, that scribal institution to get it done. And so that's why even on this, matter of fact, even on picture here that what I opened up with, that's what you see. You see a scribal institution. All right, so this is the home of the aspiring scribes of divine words, the scribal institution. All right, and just keep that in mind. So that's the goal of these courses, the beginners, and then the next level will be to gain competency and proficiency in the grammar. All right, and the glyphs around this image here are glyphs that are telling you that this is the school, the school of scribes, the scribal school, scribal institution. Okay, then you have the scribe there in the middle.
Yeah, that would be at Sabah Net Seshu.
Okay, repeat that again.
At Sabah Net Seshu.
Okay, at Sabah Net Seshu. And what does that mean?
That would be School of Scribes.
Okay. And so we see that mirrored on both sides. I can't turn my cursor on for this picture, but in the middle, right under Jehudi, you see Jehudi at the top, and you see Medew Netcher in the circle of Jehudi's headpiece. Then you see Jehudi. And then below Jehudi, right in the middle, you see the symbol for Seshat. So we can't leave out Seshat. So we have Jehudi and Seshat represented. To the left and right of Jehudi, we have Sesh, Medew Netcher. All right. To the left and right on the top of the building. And then below Jehudi, like I said, in the middle, we have Seshat, symbol for Seshat, she who scribes. And then to the left and right of that symbol, we have in asymmetry, mirroring each other, we have At Sabah Net Seshu, which is the school of scribes. We have the scribe in the middle, and the scribe is sitting in between the horizon. So you see the rays there. So the scribal institution is on the horizon. And things that appear is the word ka'u. So the scribal institution is something that's new. It's appearing. So we're laying the foundation for a scribal institution, and we're raising warriors, warrior scribes, warriors in the sense that we are going to champion for the competency and proficiency of the language, because it's through the language that we will understand, have a better understanding of Kemet. And anything that we're going to do with the knowledge that Kemet once had is going to come through the language. Anybody that's not dealing with the language, they're going to be handicapped. They won't be able to pull it off. The language is the way to go. It's the move. And so this is where we stand on if you are going to be a teacher of Kemet, a lecturer or any public figure in a position of influence on other people, then it's imperative that you study the language as well, at least at a basic level, beginner's level, so that you can start to consult primary documents, primary literature. Because if you don't, you're going to be handicapped. And to put yourself in a leadership position of influence and to be handicapped, then, as they say, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you as a leader or teacher is weak in that department, then guess what? The people are not going to be strong. They only be strong as the weakness that you are allowing yourself to be in. So become strong, strengthen yourself, strengthen your studies, learn the language so you can consult primary text and primary literature. That's what we need today. Okay. And that goes for what June was saying earlier, because we're using these dictionaries and people are saying, okay, well, why are you using non-African information in dictionaries? Well, we need to raise people up so that they'll be warriors for this. So we don't have to, so more people don't have to depend on that at all. Because we don't have to. But there's many people that do and have to. Whether they have the skills or the time. Because some people have the skills but not the time. They know how, but people have to live. They have mouths to feed, families to raise, and things like that. So we need to raise awareness so that people can donate resources, whether it's money or actual resources in the form of research material, books, all kinds of things. So people are not going to feel to do that if everybody's just satisfied with the misinformation that floats around. People could look at an unk and say, hey, that's the womb of a woman, the ovaries, and a penis, and represents life and the child. Or they could look at something and say, anything, and just say whatever it is. That's what we have to stop and eliminate. So anyway, I don't went on a little rant to end with, but that's all I have to say. And anybody else want to close us out? Emiket, if you do the honors and close us out.
Sure. So I would just like to say thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you on our Freestyle Friday. And make sure that you check check our website seshmdw-ntr.com for more information and resources regarding the language and the script. And if you wanted to take the class, then we have the classes by university. And yes, and the 3 books that you see on your screen, those are we have the beginner's book. That's the one we were using today to go over the translation method. So get that if you haven't done that. And then the middle one, we have the Penmanship book, and then on the far right we have the decipherment book that explains decipherment and just how scripts work. So good resources to have as well. So definitely get that. And for those, I know Senator Lisa was asking about a t-shirt with the Scrabble institution on it, and we do have that one also on the Sesh Netcher page. So if you go to the seshmdw-ntr.com, and on the shop section, you'll find the books and you'll find the teas as well. And again, and the Facebook page, if you haven't joined, please do join our page as well. And what else? Yeah, subscribe to our YouTube page so that you get notifications, because sometimes we're gonna have like some impromptu live sessions as well, and you don't want to miss that. So subscribe. And once again, dua for tuning in, and hope to see you again on Friday. On Friday for Freestyle Fridays. So get an affair, which is good night, or back an affair, good morning, and Shema Motep, go in peace.